My name is Greg Proctor. I live in Tucson, Arizona. This is actually where I grew up, but I spent the last about 14 or 15 years in LA. I moved out to do some different things. That's when I really got into fitness and coaching when I was out in LA and met my wife out there. We were looking for a little slower pace to life than Los Angeles. So moved back to Tucson because I still have family here and got connected with a really good private gym that I like. And I've been doing personal training and online coaching and a few other things here in town and just enjoying the desert life out here before it gets to be too hot this summer. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I've been into fitness my entire life. I always played sports growing up, kind of a sports fanatic. I've always been either on a team or playing in high school or in the intramurals in college. And now I'm 46 and I'm still playing hockey every Sunday night in a league. So I've always been into sports, always been into fitness. Just more recently got into the more holistic health and natural side of things.
Nice. So how did you, I guess, getting into fitness, was that mostly through sports?
I think that's where I fell in love with it, is just learning how to better take care of myself for sports. When you're young, you can just do anything you want and the next day you're fine. And then as you get older, if I'm going to recover properly, I need to train properly. I need to know what I need to do after a game to feel better the next day. Every decade that gets a little bit different, than when you're 18 and you can, play 3 basketball games in 3 days and it's no problem. So, I got a little bit more interested. I've always been kind of, I don't want to use the wrong word, but kind of nerdy when it comes to science and research. So I really like learning and seeing the science behind things and learning why things are the way they are. So learning a little bit more how to train appropriately for something and then recover appropriately for what I was doing as well. So this just kind of got me into it because I was into the science and how things really worked.
And I guess from just learning more about it, is that how you kind of got into coaching others?
I got into coaching. It was really by happenstance. I lived in a neighborhood in LA where we lived in a cul-de-sac. So the whole neighborhood kind of knew each other. A lot of families, a lot of kids. There was a park there and people just saw me working out all the time. So as I got to know my neighbors, they'd come up and say, "Hey, what was that you're doing? Or can you give me some help with this? I want to know." And one of my neighbors said, "We all want to do this. Why don't you start like doing something in the park? Like we'll pay you, like do a boot camp or something." I said, "Yeah, let's do a boot camp." So the first day I did it, I had like 16 people come. They all paid $10 and I was there for an hour. And I said, wait, maybe there's something here. I made $160 just to tell people what to do for an hour. And I like it. So I was just doing it on the weekends. I worked for the Cal State school system. So I had a 9-to-5 job, but I did on the weekends just because I liked it. Some of the boot camp people would that want more work. So we do private training on the weekend or in the evening. And then as I saw that could be lucrative or at least a side income, then I got certified by, I went to the NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, and ISSA. So I got my certificates for personal training and fitness nutrition through them, and then started, just building a side business that way. When I moved to Tucson, because it's about a third of the price of everything in LA, I realized I can do this for a living now. I don't have to have the 9-to-5 I did in LA to do this. So I can do what I love and actually make a living at it here.
Did you have any trouble kind of making it kind of to the same scale, at least at first, when you moved back?
So no, and the reason I didn't is because as I was doing that training on the side in Los Angeles, I also got connected with, and maybe you're familiar with it, there's a franchise called OsteoStrong. And it's a wellness studio that works mainly with people that have bone density issues. So I learned a lot about working with people that are, 65 and up on bone density, people that have osteoarthritis, and various other aging related issues. So I sort of made that my niche. So when I moved out here, I could tell all the people out here in Tucson, which is a much older community than Los Angeles, here's my specialty. I don't think anybody out here is doing this stuff. Come see me. And then word of mouth just spread. And I was able to start picking up younger clients just because they would hear about me. But I scaled up just by starting with kind of the senior citizens in our area that were worried about bone density, arthritis, being able to get up off the ground if they fall, things like that. So gotcha. I built up from a specific place.
Gotcha. And where did the kind of the holistic thing come from?
So I have chronic migraines. So I've had that for many, many years. And I just got really tired of every time I went to see a doctor or a neurologist, them saying, take this pill And if it doesn't work, take it for 6 or 8 more weeks. And then if it doesn't work, take 6 or 8 weeks to get off it and we'll try something else. So I was just on this vicious cycle of feeling like a pill zombie, then having to get off of it and withdrawing from it, and then still having my migraines. I was like, there's got to be something better than just all these pharmaceuticals. Like it's exhausting me. So I wanted to find more natural ways to find ways to be healthy. And again, just being kind of a science and research nerd, I just wanted to bring as much information as I could, because I want to be able to share that with my clients too, especially the older ones. Most of them that have bone density issues are being put on these awful pharmaceuticals that can literally cause cancer. So I just want to be able to know as much and use myself sort of as the experiment with all this holistic, health, and then be able to give that to my clients as well. So I just became passionate about and I guess don't get me wrong, there's a place for pharmaceuticals in Western medicine. Like there's an appropriate time for all of that. But for me, I just needed to find something different because that wasn't working for me and it was making my health worse. So I got more vested into the natural side of things.
When it comes to, I guess, learning how to work with people, was that kind of an experience for you, or did you just kind of find that you worked well with people?
That's a great question. And it's interesting because I'm a natural introvert. Like I prefer time by myself. I like people, but on my terms, like I don't want to just be dragged to a party, but if I want to go, then it's a different story. I think, so again, the research and science thing, I got my degree in psychology. So people in general are just sort of fascinating to me, different personality types, behaviors, what's underneath behaviors. So I've always kind of been into figuring that out. And every person that comes in, every new client that I have is another study. I have to learn them. They have to learn me. We have to figure out what works, together and for them specifically. So it's just, it's kind of a game. It's fun just to kind of figure people out, put the pieces of the puzzle together in order to get them the results that they initially come to me for. So yeah, generally an introvert, but when it's one-on-one with somebody, I feel really comfortable and I like getting to know people, especially when they're here for a particular reason, like getting healthy. Like that's exciting to me.
And are you still working kind of primarily with that same population?
It's really become, not primarily, no. I mean, I would definitely say that's still my expertise if I had to pick one niche, but I'd say I have people of all ages and groups and skill levels now. So someone might come to me, I've got, kids in their early 20s that want to get more fit for their sports or to get stronger because they're going into their senior year and they need to make the team. I've got an 82-year-old lady who's, 82 pounds with osteoporosis that is scared to death of breaking a hip. So it's everywhere in that spectrum. I'd say most of my clients now are probably in their 40s and 50s. So adults that have maybe just not moved like they've wanted to over the past decade and realize that they're getting to the age where if they don't do something now, it's going to be really challenging in the future. So trying to get ahead of it before it's too late.
Yeah, I think that's such a big population. It's so weird though, because it seems like that generation, the 40s, 50s, they still obviously have so much potential left to do, physically to do what they want to do. And, looking back in their past, it's like they had so much physical activity growing up, much more than we do now. So it's interesting to me
sure.
what it's going to look like when people in their teens and younger and maybe, 20s to younger kind of these days, what it's going to look like in, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I try not to be cynical about it, but there are times that, in my field, it's hard not to be when, like you said, I grew up where every day when you come home from school, okay, mom, I'm going to the park. I'll see you at dinner. Like we'd riding bikes and playing football and climbing on jungle gyms. And now, and again, not that there's anything wrong with this, but now kids are online. I didn't have the internet when I was younger. So the kids are online, they're playing video games. Video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry now. It's something that kids want to do when they grow up. So it's just a totally different childhood. That's a generalization, but it is. So it's going to be really interesting. I think that you have to just set the right example for people. And, hopefully you can inspire people to understand they need to take care of themselves. Parents have their part to play as well. But, if a kid's growing up not going outside, not exercising, just playing video games, there's going to come a time where there's going to be some discomfort, and hopefully my face has been there enough and other people in their lives' face has been there enough that when they get uncomfortable, they can say to that person, I have discomfort. Like, what can I do? Can I get some help? So it's going to be really interesting because, like you said, the 15-year-olds in 40 years, that's a totally different life than what I led. So
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to speculate on that, but there's certainly, challenges for those that aren't getting the same sort of experiences that we did of falling off a bike after school every day.
Right. And when it comes to the kind of existing population now, how do you motivate? How do you, is it baby steps? Like what kind of is almost your like motto or your, your motivation? And I'm sure it's different for each individual, but like on a general basis, how do you get somebody that doesn't maybe even like to be active to like just do it for their own health's sake?
Again, using the psychology degree that I had, I learned a lot about, it's not just about a goal, but it's about somebody's why. You really have to dig down a few levels deeper. If someone doesn't want to be active and they don't like it, but they feel like they have to, okay, why do they have to? Is it because their friend weighs 170 pounds and they want to weigh 170 pounds? That's not going to keep them going. Is it because playing with their kids on the soccer field, they run out of gas in 5 minutes and their kids are crying because mom can't play with them anymore? That's a why. That's something I can go back to and say, okay, your kids are running around the track today. Let's get this last set in. So next week, you know what I mean? So it's about diving a little bit deeper and figure out what drives them, even when they don't really realize what drives them, the important things, the things that translate to life. And look, there's nothing wrong if someone says, my why is that I want to be able to, wear a bathing suit at the beach, because what that really translates to is they don't have the confidence. They want to gain confidence so they can do that and feel secure in themselves. So I'll talk more about confidence and security and, being cool with who they are and loving themselves. So there's just a different verbiage that you use for the different goals and whys. And they aren't being shallow. They just don't know necessarily what that means to want to be able to not have to wear a shirt at the swimming pool. It's about how they feel about themselves. Right. And how they think other people are viewing them, and where that confidence lies within them. So it's just about drilling down a little bit deeper. So it's within them. It is. And once we usually get to that point, there's that aha moment. They're like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And once you can get that, especially if I can help them say it themselves, because anytime you're trying to, hope that somebody's going to do something, they're 10 times more likely to do it if they come up with the idea than if I'm telling them. So if we can kind of have that conversation, drilling down on their why, and they can say, well, yeah, I'm just not confident. Boom, there we can work with that. And the workouts become totally different because we know why we're focused on this.
What do you see, a big portion of the setbacks being from? Is it a, you obviously have the big constraints. They're the big kind of things of time and energy, money, those kind of things. But, is something deeper? Like what is holding a lot of people back that you see from actually achieving what they want to achieve?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll just touch on some of the things you said. When people say, things like they don't have the time, they don't have the money. There's a lot of different, whether you want to call them reasons or excuses. It all goes back to it's about mindset, right? And people have limiting beliefs in their lives about what they're not capable of. And if someone says they don't have time to work out, they might feel that way because they wake up, they get their kids ready for school, they drive them to school, they go to work, they come home, they take the kids to soccer. It feels like they don't have time, but we can find that. There are ways to figure that out. So it's just a matter of figuring out what's important, what their why is, and why they have this limiting belief. And a lot of the times it's not about them, but about caring for others. Like if someone says they don't have time, it's not generally because they're busy 24/7. It's because they're doing things for other people 24/7. So where can we find time to help you get better so you can help your loved ones even better? Especially people with kids. Like that is the why in their life. You want to be a better parent, be healthier. Like that's going to make you a better parent right away. You're going to be more active with them. You're going to be in a better mood. You're not going to be sick as often. You're going to live longer. They're not going to have to take care of you when you're older. All those things. And that's just one thing. That's just time with kids. So there's always limiting beliefs like that people have, but we can usually talk through it if we can find that, conversation to where it's mutual and we're just going back and forth. I can ask questions and have them come up with that on their own. That's usually a good way too.
Yeah, I think that's it's funny because you've mentioned psychology and kind of you have that background. I always thought it would be, such a useful tool for every personal trainer, every coach of any kind, even, teachers, certainly, to have some kind of like psychology course, if, at
Yeah.
the least a course,
Yeah. Yeah,
something to
for
where
sure.
it's understanding, human behavior, why someone
Yep.
acting the way they act or believe what they believe. I think it's so fundamental to, being a person that, whether you're coach, teacher, parent, you're basically just being someone that is partially responsible for helping someone become the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. And look, doing 10 squats on the gym floor is not really hard, but deciding that you want to get healthy, saying like, I need to do this is hard. Calling a trainer is hard. Showing up for the first day is hard. All those things are, I shouldn't say hard, very uncomfortable. So the psychology piece really does matter. And, I kind of, baby steps is probably the wrong word, but when people start, I really want to just, after assessing them and making sure everything's safe and I know how to program appropriately for them, I'm going to, those first 6 weeks are about making goals that they're probably going to hit and feel empowered. I don't want them to go home and say like, oh God, I can't believe I have to go back and do that tomorrow. I want them leaving saying like, man, I did that. I spent 10 years thinking I couldn't do that. And I did that. I can't wait to go back tomorrow. I can't wait to feel sore on Saturday because of this. So it should be fun. It should be empowering. Like this is, something that we get to do as humans and that we're capable of. And it's just, again, back to the mindset. It's about, we are sort of programmed in a certain way in society about waking up and working and making money and getting the bigger house and the bigger car. Health is on the back burner for a lot of us. And it was that way for me too for a long time. I can't, point fingers in that way because I think we've all been through that in some way where we put ourselves on the back burner.
Yeah. And I like that thing you said about kind of setting those small goals, very achievable, kind of like going back to building confidence. That's something I've never really thought about. I don't know if maybe subconsciously, it was back there somewhere, but like, talk about that a little bit. Is that something that is kind of integral to the beginning of most people's program?
So for me, it's, again, going back to the mindset and people having limiting beliefs about what they can do or even should be doing. So I don't set goals necessarily to say like, I'm going to make this so easy. Of course, they're going to hit it because they're not going to get any reward from that. So it's about finding some very gray area to where this is going to challenge them. But when they're done, they can do it and they're going to feel good about it. So those goals I set are more about, I wouldn't even necessarily call them goals. I would just say like, okay, we're going to do this today. Oh, I see this. You're moving really well. You look strong today. Why don't we add a little bit here? And then when we're done, say like, wow, we didn't do that last week. Look what you did today. So just giving that really positive encouragement, saying, look what you did. Look what you're capable of. How do you feel right now? And have them be able to express that back to me. Like, yeah, that felt pretty good. I feel strong. And the more that they can use those words, whether they're telling it to me or they're saying it to themselves in the mirror every day, those positive affirmations, like that's part of psychology, like that matters. The more they can say, I did this, I can do this, I am strong, I am healthy, that goes a long way. Yeah. So it's about doing things with the clients that I know will at least give them the opportunity to say that for themselves.
That's really cool. Going back to the holistic thing though, you're on your Instagram page, it says, advocate for CBD. And I think those obviously, are tied together somewhat. Tell us a little bit about, your experience with it and why you say that.
Yeah. So I, obviously it's becoming more and more mainstream now, but that was part of my journey when I was trying to find something outside of pharmaceuticals for my migraines. I had CBD recommended to me a lot because, it is proven to be good for anxiety. It's good for people that have stress or can't sleep. And anxiety and not sleeping were the two biggest triggers I had for my migraines. So I was into giving that a shot and trying it. But, when something kind of new comes in and takes off, you can type in CBD and find a million places to get it from, but what are you getting? So I spent 3 years taking stuff that wasn't really helping me. And I learned why. They were getting this ingredient from this country, this ingredient from that country, putting it together almost like a pharmaceutical. So it wasn't having the same effect on my, endocannabis system in my body. So I was missing things when I was taking it. I think when you find a pure version of this, when you find a farm that's reputable, when you find a farm that's certified organic, when you know that you're getting a quality product, CBD for me, and it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, my anxiety, my sleep, my migraines, 3 of the biggest chronic issues I had in my life were greatly alleviated by this. So I became a big believer in it. That made me do further research to try to find, the best available, especially, and it was really important to me that I found an American company as well, because again, you can get stuff from all over the world and who knows what happens in the process. So I found a place that I really believe in. I liked the family that owned the place. I liked their philanthropic ways that they dealt with the profits. So I just found a good mix for myself that I felt comfortable with. I know this works for me. I know this works for my wife for totally different issues. And it's natural. Like you're not going to take, CBD and overdose on it like you would Imitrex for my migraines. So it's a way that it can, like, I think everybody can get a benefit from. So I'm just a big believer in that as like a really holistic, natural substance that can help just about everybody in some way.
And talking about natural stuff, I think there's so many natural techniques, things that, potentially like breath work, even just like simple things like food, that's very natural that we're not really utilizing to the most, advantageous ways these days. What are some natural things though that either you recommend, you do, or you kind of see that we used to do kind of as a species and we're picking it back up maybe a little bit more in kind of niches? But what are some of those things that you see are kind of on the rise, those natural things?
So you mentioned breath work. Now I know breath work as a practice and a technique. There's different ways to do that. You can have experts lead you through breath work sessions. There's different ways to do it. I find one of the most beneficial things in the world, and don't get this wrong, meditating is really hard for me because my mind goes, but I really enjoy meditating, even if it's just for 10 minutes at a time, and focusing on breath work at the same time. And for me, breath work with meditation is less about a cadence or breathing in a certain way, like through my chest and my stomach. And it's just a way of making sure that I'm actually taking in full breaths and filling up my body and exhaling fully. So as somebody that has anxiety and stress, I take short breaths just naturally. And sometimes my wife will even call me out when I'm concentrating on something. She'll say, "Are you breathing right now?" I was like, "Oh, I guess I was holding my breath while I was tying my shoe," something like that. So I think in the stressful age that we're in, I think a lot of people are probably like that, where we hold our breath. So when we're, white knuckling something or driving, someone cuts us off, we're holding our breath to see what will happen. Boy, just taking in good inhales, holding it for a few seconds, exhaling it all out, and really just breathing, letting my mind be quiet. Like those two things are huge for me. But breath work's really rather amazing. Like there's a lot of research behind it that's really cool. Just a basic thing that humans can do. I love when I hear people say that they go for walks every day. It's a very simple thing. That is how we are built. That's what we're meant to do. We're meant to walk. So walking is a great exercise for our skeletal system, our muscles, our heart, our mind. It's you can meditate and breathe while walking. So those are all natural things that are super easy that everybody can do every day.
Yeah, I think walking is one of the biggest things for me. And I really started doing it, let's see, I would say like almost all of last year, actually, now to think about it. All of like 2021, I pretty much did a walk a day.
Yeah.
And it really was like just being out in the sun. It was, fun. It was fun, but it was also just like you said, kind of meditative. And, I would both like think about nothing and then think about like what I want to like achieve. Like it was almost like this out of body and super in body experience at the same time, feeling a part of nature, feeling more part of yourself, then, getting done. And it's like a workout, but at the same time, it's almost like the complete opposite of a workout. It's almost like I said, just meditative in a way. It's
Yeah,
such a, I think, a
exactly how I
different
feel
thing.
about it. I think walks are amazing. Again, getting sun, we know, is another very natural thing that's super good for us. Getting fresh air in LA, that was a little harder to come by, but you go to a park, you get the sun, you breathe, like, those are things that are very natural that are good for us. There's a lot of people that believe in grounding, just having your bare feet on the ground outside, with the different magnetic forces in the earth and having that interact with your body. Like there's some healing properties to that there's been some research on. So I'll do that from time to time. It's not a daily practice for me, but I live in a place where until it gets to the dead of summer, like going out in 80-degree weather with my bare feet on the grass is really great out here. So it's something that I'll do when I'm reading like my 10 pages a day or just going out and being with my dog, just do it barefoot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think sometimes the most simple things that we like to, I think, overcomplicate a lot of times when it comes to health. We do. think about like, what's the best new product? What's the best new supplement? What's the best new everything? And it's just kind of getting back to the basics, the
Yeah.
natural things that what have, what does our body want? I think a lot of times we forget to ask ourselves that instead of like, what does, what is everything around us telling us that we want?
Yeah. And when we speak of things like this, like, walking and meditating and breathing, and the reason I use holistic health in my name of my business is because health is not just about physical fitness or what the nutrition that you put in your body. Like, I'm a huge proponent of, mental health awareness. I think that's huge. Emotional wellness, emotional health, financial health, anything that, helps keep you unstressed. So there's just a lot more than just the physical nature of what do I look like. That doesn't determine my health. That's just a really small piece of if I'm healthy or not. So, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all that stuff we at least have to have our foot in the door of all those things to truly be healthy.
What do you feel like you've learned about yourself in the experience you've had coaching others?
That's a good question. I think both with people and with myself, it's about connection. So it's about the connection I have with people, the connection I have with my own being and my own mind and my own wellness. But it's why I like helping people this way. It's, people can sell health products all day long and say they're in the health and wellness field. I like to have that connection with people so I can, see the growth in them, so we can have our relationship grow. All of my clients, we end up having, friendships. We might not keep in touch afterwards, but we have a good time when we're working out. Like, we make this fun. So I really like the connection with people. And for being an introvert, that's really cool for me to see, like, to get that connection and get that feeling out of it, like two humans on the same page, working together to get something done. That's fun. And then you also, like you said, you learn about yourself. So just connecting with myself, connecting with what's important to me, connecting with nature, connecting to health holistically, and learning what that means for me, rather than just having people tell me what to do or throw pills at me. I think connections, what I've learned the most in the last few years, is how important that is for humans.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that we've become even more aware of with the last couple of years, having lost that in a
100%.
lot of
Yep.
ways,
I think people didn't realize that until it was gone.
Yeah.
Everybody would say, like, does this mean I can hug you now? Is it over? When people would come into my old work, we used to be huggers, and then we didn't touch for 2 years. It's like, you start to miss that. You don't think you're going to, but you do. We need that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's a big part of what makes us different from the robots.
Let's,
So,
for now.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, man, it was really good getting to talk to you today. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and just sharing a little bit about your experience and kind of what you've learned along the way. It's an honor to have you on.
Thanks, man. It's always fun to talk about this kind of stuff. And yeah, I haven't been on a podcast before, so this was cool. But yeah,
Awesome.
I appreciate the questions. Like, it got me thinking about a few things. Yeah, it was fun. So I appreciate it.
Definitely. And before we head out, if you want to let people know where they can find you on social media, that would be cool.
Oh yeah, you can find me at Holistic Health with Greg. So that's the word holistic _health _W _Greg. So Holistic Health with Greg at Instagram. Same thing on Facebook.